First degree.
Where are we at?
We have 6.
Well, it's 12:02 and we don't have a quorum. It's 12. So do we just want to run through the agenda? Any reports that need to be made? Probably. Good. Good. And now make the sheriff chair the meeting.
Yay, sure. So we can't approve minutes.
No.
Those will go on next one. Okay.
You want me to chair?
Yeah. Sure.
We'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. Has the meeting been noticed?
We have our quorum.
If so,
So you have 7. But yes, we now have a quorum. And the meeting has been noticed to the news media and the public required by section 19.4 of the Wisconsin statutes.
Okay, thank you.
so in absence of the chair and vice chair not being here, I formally nominate the sheriff to chair the meeting.
Roll call.
Hey, Kathy McCoy absent, Gary Hilgendorf.
Here.
Mark Helwig.
Yeah.
Marshall Savitsky. Absent, Elaine Smith. Absent, Katie Bellinger. Absent, Ryan Reed. Absent, Tree Truman. Absent, Lorraine Boucher. Absent. Andy Alvarado,
Here.
Bruce Paquette,
Here.
Doug Rotek,
Here.
Mike Fuller,
Here.
John Yackel.
Here.
Have a quorum.
Thank you. We'll stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Meeting agenda. Any changes need to be made? With that, I entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Motion. Do we have a second?
Second,
Second by Helwig.
yep,
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
aye,
Opposed, motion carries. Any public comments?
Nope.
Hearing no public comments, we'll move on to approval of last month's minutes. Everybody get a chance to review them.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
Motion to approve,
A second.
second. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye,
Opposed? Motion carries. Bylaw updates?
Same, yeah, they're the same bylaw updates we've had on there for a few months. We need a 2/3 attendance though in order to make any bylaw amendment changes, so I think we'll just have to punt on that for another month.
Another month, okay. With that, we'll move on to jail report update. Is that, I think at public safety, it was talked about, I think we were gonna include the jail report update for CJCC so that the CJCC committee could review it and be in the loop as well, and if they had any questions, a good time to answer it, so. That is posted here. Lieutenant, with it posted up there, do you want to kind of highlight anything as you do in public safety?
Sure. Can we go back to the other report there? Every daily population, I believe we're sitting below that currently, but the time this report was done was at 82 inmates. I believe we may be in the 60s. We're still housing approximately 20 females in Barron. Average probation incarceration 11.4, which would have been 13.8% of our population. Pre-sentence incarceration was at 51, which was at 61.6% of our total incarceration, and average sentence incarceration was 20.4. That number is lower today than it was at the time this report was done. We shipped them off to prison this morning. Currently have 3 on EM monitor and like said we're still housing approximately 20 females in Barron.
Thank you. Anything else?
Just to follow up, as far as the electron, is there some discussion on changing electronic monitoring? Is there any, like when we use that, when we don't, or?
We've had some discussion with Becky here, and that's something we'll continue to
Okay,
monitor and visit, but at this time, the big thing is whether they have Huber privileges and meeting the criteria and risk factors. So,
and then my other question is just to follow up based on a couple other meetings this month. On the second page, we break down the inmate population by race. Is that a criteria of the jail, or is there a reason for that, or?
I'm not sure this was put in place prior to me. I'm just kind of filling in the blanks as we go, so I'm not sure if that information was requested by somebody else at the past time.
I know we've continued it as a tradition in the 5+ years I've been here, so I don't know if that's something that was requested earlier. If the demographics were requested, but that's something that we've kept with the same format here.
It's other reports from other committees that have had the question come up this last month, and
Mhm.
it's kind of in the same reactions. Because we've always done that.
Yep.
Nobody really knows where it originated from.
Any other questions or concerns about the jail report? Hearing none, we'll move on to the criminal justice coordinator.
So I'll go through our numbers first. We're currently where we're sitting at with pretrial cases, bear with me, because I don't have my glasses today. We're at 107 for pretrial cases. 33 of those are court reminders only. Current diversion cases, we're at 12. Diversion referrals pending, we have 4. Diversion cases completed are 14. Eligible diversion cases, we have 24. We have 3 pending diversion cases that are possible fails. We have 30 on our wait list, and we have 36 intakes pending for new bonds. So those are our numbers. We have, as of December 2nd, we were approved for our TAD funding. So that, obviously that was good news. We are going to post for a treatment court coordinator / case manager for treatment court. We're going to move forward with all of that. We are meeting with treatment court planning after this meeting. We plan to meet monthly for treatment court the first year for our implementation phase. So we have the first year will be slow moving, but still implementing. So that's where we're going to be at with treatment court. We also met with the sheriff and command law enforcement this past week and are going to be moving forward with law enforcement diversion, which is also good news. And Sheriff, if you want to at all elaborate on that, otherwise we can talk about that more in the future once we move forward with that. But we're going to plan to do a training with law enforcement in January on that. So that's good. And I think that that will address some of those issues that the tribe keeps bringing up as far as arrests with certain populations. It's at least moving forward with doing something progressive in that area. For lack of a better way of saying things.
The only thing that I would add is, the sheriff's office is in strong support of diversion at the law enforcement level. And meeting with the other department heads, I think there's a lot of support and buy-in on behalf of the other agencies as well. And I think it'll be more successful if all law enforcement by and large is on the same page. Chief DeBro was not able to make it. He did communicate with me later in the day. And he definitely will keep him in the loop and intends to be there next month. So, and he seemed pretty favorable as well. So I think things are looking up.
And we, as Justice Point, me and my supervisors are meeting with the tribe on the 21st to talk about some of the concerns that they have, the things that we are doing and not doing.
Thank you. Anything else with that?
Not that I have.
Any questions for Becky? Okay, we'll move on to a truancy update. Last month, there was a few questions about how we are handling the truancy issues in the school. So today with us is Deputy Elmarby, who is our truancy officer, and she's going to explain a little bit about the process here. And I'll turn it over to Amber.
So what makes a child habitually truant or a student is, each student gets 5 days a semester of excused absences and then 5 days of unexcused. Once they hit the unexcused absences, the limit, that makes them habitually truant. So the administrative assistants in the schools go through couple times every quarter, every semester. They go through all the absences and attendance, and they'll look at who's either close to their 5 or 10 days of unexcused absences, and then they hand that over to me. They send out letters first to the parents explaining, hey, you've hit your absences or you're close to hitting your absences. A lot of the parents will then call the schools and say, well, this is the reasons why. They'll give excuses and excuse those absences if they have enough to use. If they don't, then usually gets turned over to me then for a citation. Once I then do the citation, it gets sent over to Shannon, and she does the court hearing at her window. It's not mandatory, so I just spoke with her before I came here, and it sounds like she's got 3 out of the, I don't know how many citations I've written this year, quite a few. Only 3 that are on some sort of payment plan. The rest are all, no one showed up, nothing's going on with it. Juvenile Services was trying to work on getting involved after the 4 cites, because they can get 2 citations a semester, the first offense truancy and then the second, or 4 citations a year, I mean. After the 4th citation for the year, ultimately nothing really happens with it. I can't go any further. So Juvenile Services was working on getting involved in maybe getting in touch with the family, saying what's going on, why isn't your kid going to school, maybe putting them on juvenile supervision. I know we got that far with 2 children, and then they kind of got behind on and staffing issues, and they weren't able to be involved anymore. So once they go through the court process with Shannon, ultimately, that's kind of the last we hear about it until they turn 17 and it goes to collections or whatnot. I have been talking with a lot of the principals, and I know they said with the way things are going right now, it's been pretty difficult for them to know kind of what's going on because they're not getting a lot of feedback, and that things were going really well before this. So I don't know if there's anything we can do in the future for that, or I know everybody's kind of short-staffed and
What do you mean they don't know what's going on?
they said they're not getting because they used to have to go to the court and they're not involved in that anymore. So after they meet with Shannon, no one really gets any feedback on what happened.
Because, well, so when Schlender was the court commissioner, he did the truancy. And very frankly, this is one of those situations where do we deal with child sexual assault cases that's where I'm going to be at 1 o'clock for sentencing? Or do we deal with truancy? And then the question with truancy that I always had a problem with is that they've gone through the school, they've gone through, I don't know, letters as you just described, and now they come to court, and if they don't come to court, what do we do? Okay, well, we default them. And then they do come to court, what do we do? You know, you need to be in school. Yeah, okay, yeah, I mean, somebody has a magic word that will make them start going to school when they come to court, that's great, but right now we don't have the time. I've been approached by Mr. Kelsey, who is on the school board. And was asked about that, because then we've had problems with when we did have the hearings. The people in the school were like, "Well, we have to be there." Well, yeah, you have to be here. I mean, if you're going to be telling, if we're going to be talking about to these kids about school or the parents, we need somebody there from the school who's going to tell us, you know, what their situation is and what their background is and the history. And, you know, if there's an IEP, if there's a learning disability, if it's the parents, if it's the kids. And so there's been some issues on that, but going forward, I mean, that's certainly put that on the number of things on the agenda for when branch 2 starts up and we started having more judicial time to be able to look at things and get things addressed if they want to go back to. I mean, I suggested to Mike that he set it up with somebody from the school board and also from the high school and the middle school, those administrators to say, what do you want it to look like? And it was always a situation of, well, we're in court. I don't know these kids. You guys do. What do you want me to say to them? And so there was never any, you know, well, this kid has improved, this kid is not. I mean, I had to draw it out. So it's like, I would like to meet with them and say, by the time they get to me, and everything the school has tried has been fruitless. By the time it gets to the court system, what would you want me to do? I mean, do you want me to yell at them and lecture them? I mean, I can do that, but I mean, the results of that is still gonna be the same. So I'm open to suggestions from those administrators is, I mean, if it's a thing that they want to have some kind of a system, or if Health and Human Services wants to take it into like a juvenile justice type thing, those are all great ideas. But right now it's on the back end of the burning things.
And I think that's kind of, we were all really excited when Sarah wanted to get involved and then, and I completely understand staffing and workload and whatnot.
So
So,
talk to Sarah too about it.
yeah, and I think that would be great in the future whenever they can.
Because that is the magic question is, well, the school and dealing with them, the parents and the kids can't make any headway. All I've got is, you know, a $220 citation.
I think when they were involved before, they kind of,
Who's they?
when Youth Justice was in there before, when Jim would hear them, it seemed like it was almost scarier for them, because they're like, oh my gosh, you know, they're gonna really step, you know, and then the parents, I think, feel the heat a little bit more too.
Yeah.
And once that went away, it was just like, just equal, let them pay. But another thing, but when they turn 17, then when it's gonna go to collections, then they come to the window and say, well, I didn't know. And then it's frustrating because that's entered in on this end, like with the clerks, it's entered in as a default and it's sent to collections, all this stuff, and then the school, oh, well, it's forgiven, they're graduating. Let's just, you know, we'll do dollars today, or they're graduating already, just let it go. And then it's like, well, what was the point of all of this then if you're gonna just say, we're gonna just forgive them? There's no, like, that's not helping anybody, it's creating more work on this end where.
That's
you know,
kind of what
that's kind
happened.
of where it started to get to be after the fact, like after Youth Justice wasn't involved anymore. But I think once they can get back involved and everyone get back on the same page, I think their presence has a huge, like, really big part. to
And it needs to be something more constructive than just the court yelling at them, because that's just not effective. I mean, I don't know what is, but I mean, and that could be an element of it, but that's the thing. I mean, those administrators came and then all of a sudden, okay, well, I'll start kind of laying into either the parent or the kid. And then you wanted the school to back you up, and then it was kind of like, well, we're uncomfortable with what you're saying to them. So it's like, yeah, let's just give them another chance. And it kind of pulled the teeth out of the whole thing.
I think this is something too in the future here with the second branch and if things work out better staffing wise with CPS there, it'd be nice to have a better process here to have more of a complete loop. And that's something we could communicate better with the school too. And, you know, if we're gonna do it, let's stick with it and not have it forgiven in the end. And
It
have
would
those
be, it'd be good to have
consequences.
something created where those administrators sign on to it and they pledge their time
Yes.
and effort into whatever it is that we decide.
Yeah, we don't want to desensitize. Yeah,
Is the 5 days excuse unexcused, that's state law, isn't it?
Yes.
Do we have a local ordinance at all, or is it strictly on the state?
They have the local ordinance.
There's local ordinance for that.
That mirrors the state statute.
Right.
And when Schlender was doing it, he was doing it as family court commissioner?
No, he was just a committee. He was, at the time, he was the tribal judge, so the reason he wanted to do truancy is so that he did truancy out for the LCO tribal court in that capacity. And he had a way of doing it, and he wanted to tackle it here, and so I certainly let him do that. And
Okay.
so he sat as the court commissioner doing it here, and then as the tribal judge out at LCO.
Anything else with truancy? Youth justice and mental health updates, anything? HHS,
HHS, I do have some.
okay,
Thank you. All right, so, in October, Public Health did a vaping panel out at the LCO Community College, and we had law enforcement, school administrators, and health professionals there. Probably about, it was virtual and in person. We had probably, I don't know, about 40 people attend. The nice thing was the LCO Boys and Girls Club brought about 15 kids, and they had excellent questions, and they were very involved. So that was really nice. We also videotaped it, and we're planning to edit it down. It was 2 hours, and we could have gone longer. We had to actually stop them. So we're planning on editing that down and putting it out publicly, either on our website or on our Facebook when we get to that point. In November, Julia attended the opioid summit put on through the Wisconsin Counties Association. She was able to make connections with Wood County. They have been very successful with transitional housing programs. And if this committee plans in looking into that further, she would be willing to set up a meeting to learn more about their experience and the things that they have learned. One of the panel discussions included people that were working in peer counseling. And I know that's been brought up before. So if the committee would like to look into that further, she can also connect with people on the panel to learn more about the different models that they use for the different counties and the different peer counseling projects that they had going on. She was able to identify a framework that has 4 topic areas related to substance misuse, which are prevention, treatment, harm reduction, and recovery. And we are currently using this framework along with some of the specified interventions that they had to identify our successes and opportunities. We would like to present this at the next CJCC meeting, if at all possible. They also had a topic on data and the struggles that we have getting accurate data that's reliable. The state is investing quite a bit of money into our data systems so that we can get a clearer picture of what's going on in our communities. But it's going to be well over a year before we see any improvement in this area. So in the meantime, we feel we should work on this ourselves. And Julie would like to recommend that we convene a work group to look at the data each of us can readily get and share so that we have a baseline of where we are now prior to our interventions. And a good example of this, we're trying to get data on overdoses and both fatal and non-fatal. And we know the information is wrong. It's very, very clear that the ambulance calls for service are not correct. A lot of that information is just not correct. And it's really hard to figure out where you're going to focus a program or find grant money to focus on a specific program when you're not really, you don't have the data to show where exactly the problem is. Well, we know there's a problem, but we're trying to drill down into that a little bit better. Excuse me. She's also going to attend the next opioid summit, which is scheduled for January 12th. And then to move on, the coalition that has been set up to work on the Community Health Improvement Plan, the CHIP, is called Sawyer County Healthier Together. The steering committee has been identified with 3 priority areas. The priority areas and the SMART goals are, number 1, it's for children and young adults, it's health education prevention. And they're going to be doing a survey on what is currently being offered in schools and the community, analyze those gaps, and then create a plan for closing at least one gap. They're going to offer at least one healthy lifestyle presentation to youth and use this as a launching event for a youth healthy lifestyle group. And then they're going to participate in Community ACE, the Adverse Childhood Events presentation, which is probably going to focus more on the parents and guardians. And we're going to consider what ACE training and intervention strategies may be appropriate for middle schoolers and high schoolers. Number 2 is for adults, and that is the alcohol and drug recovery groups and services. So they're going to disseminate and publicize recovery group meeting information and details throughout the county. This will include information on MAT, the medication assisted therapy, and how and where to access services. They're going to create and publicize a roadmap for recovery services in Sawyer County and regionally for individuals and families to access. And they're going to identify and document gaps in recovery services and close at least one of the gaps in recovery service care. Then number 3 is for adults also. It's mental health trauma informed care. So they will update the trauma informed care training for public health staff, healthcare staff, school staff, behavioral health staff, pastors, etc. They're going to create a best practice sheet for implementation into every practice. They're going to host a community event on ACEs and ACE interventions, and they're going to create and publicize a roadmap for county and regionally wide behavioral health services and how to access them. So the plan is to have work group members confirmed in January with the start date for the work groups by the beginning of February. And the public health department has also secured a full-time AmeriCorps member who will focus on keeping these work groups moving forward with clear timelines. She has experience working with these types of projects. Any questions? All right, thank you.
Thank you. We'll go back up, medical assisted therapy, LCO recovery clinic update, anything with that? Hearing none. Possible housing funding update. I know Kathy was going to reach out to Katie Bellinger. Unfortunately, Katie's not here. I don't believe she's on either, so maybe we'll be able to revisit that next month. Community service update. Anything? Gary, you have anything?
Well, actually, we had a real good meeting with Susan Hassan. I'm sure you guys know her from the tribe. And they have a group that is trying to get a homeless shelter in Northwoods Beach. They have a home and they're remodeling it, trying to get that put together. And the Ministerial Association gave them money to help them with their remodeling. And so anyway, that is a real positive thing. And still the big thing here in town is getting a place for homeless people is a challenge, because we have to raise money to do that. And there's a lot of money going for a lot of programs we already have. So, and the Men's House has one opening right now, and there's someone looking like they're going to take that spot. So, and so otherwise, the garage is enclosed now and it's being insulated, and hopefully by the end of the year, which is coming up quick, they will have that enclosed, and then we're going to have an open house there, and we're going to have a training facility where they can be trained in the like working on cars and woodworking and various things. So that's moving forward really good. So
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks for all your efforts.
yeah.
Future agenda items. Do we want to put that presentation on?
The housing,
Yeah,
I've got that.
no,
And public health.
from public health.
Okay. Oh, yes,
For
yes,
next
yes,
month?
yes.
Did Julia want to do the presentation?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what's that gonna be called?
Oh, let's call it.
presentation by Julia.
Yeah. There you go.
Fantastic.
Great, Bessie. Just call it substance misuse.
Substance
Yeah.
misuse. Thank you. Perfect.
Anything else for agenda items next month? Any correspondence reports from conferences and other meetings?
Just an announcement. Precluding announcement. The county board tomorrow night is supposed to do tours of the jail. As part of the jail requirements and then also the new construction. So we had gotten the okay to do employee tours right now. Haven't put that up because potentially we're gonna move the county board meeting. To next week, kind of watching the weather. So whatever day we do tours for the county board, we'll put out an email and if people want to see what it looks like in the new building. There'll be tours that day, like at 3 o'clock. So it could be tomorrow, could be next week on Tuesday. As soon as we know for sure, we'll get that out.
So the county board meeting is gonna be postponed?
Talking about right now.
Okay,
So would number 13 then go on next month too? Yeah,
Yeah, I'll take that on.
anything else? With that, seeing nothing else on the agenda, we're adjourned.